Did you make contact with aliens? Were you taken to another planet, to a mothership? How did they communicate with... Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food?
But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
Do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about what I am. I see that which has been made hidden. It's a part of a family that explores the consciousness. I'm the Voidwalker.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting, oh boy. Broadcasting from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Root. We had to go with the secondary encoder tonight. I don't know why. But I went out on a night walk tonight to look at the moon and the stars every night before the show, and there's nothing like a summer night walk under the moon with the good old smell of roadkill and skull melting on the pavement. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Mine was fabulous. Anyways, tonight we're going to shake things up a little bit. We usually bring on a big name guest or whatever, that's what we usually do. But we got a listener who called in and told us some trippy stories one night, like his DMT story. So Harris is here with us. And we're just going to talk a little DMT experiences and stuff like that. Now, I got to thank the sponsors real quick. And if you guys want to join the chat room, you can. It's at thefringe.fm/chat room. But the phones are down. I don't know why. It's not taking my card. I got plenty of money on my card. I'm trying to put my card in the thing. It won't take the thing. So if you want to call in, we can use the single line, which is 501-777-5631. That's going to be the call-in line for tonight. I do apologize about that. I'll get it fixed. Don't you hate that? Like his customer service reps always say that. Oh, I do apologize about that, sir. I know how it feels, but they can never fix your problem, right? Anyways, so that's what we're going to do tonight. GetTheT.com, big shout out to them. Also, AncientLifeOil.com and Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've had a paranormal experience you can't explain, give them a call. Or this caused you post-traumatic stress or trauma of any type. You get that session pro bono from Charlotte, from Barbara Charlton at 214-995-3754. Also head over to UFOseekers.com, backed and supported by the Fringe FM. So we're going to share some campfire stuff here. Harris is with us, and as a child, Harris was an observant introvert, and at an early age can remember visitations during the night and day, asleep or awake, from spirits, entities, future versions of himself. Well, that's pretty trippy. And visions of many outcomes and futures. And as a teenager, he could astral project into dynamic surroundings and achieve abilities in dream state by thinking them and create complex fourth dimensional objects of light. And also came to learn of his family lineage of shamans and witch doctors from the Philippines. And later he began to read and study about plant medicines, esoteric readings, shamanic, alchemical philosophy, and research into psychedelic psychotherapy. His recent research has been dream state and intercepting or channeling parallel states and seeking other teachers to help interact with these abilities and be a part of bringing forth a shift into a new spiritual paradigm and balance with natural technologies and spirit. Now, Harris humbly submits his experience and intuitive abilities to the service of the light and those who wish to protect the balance. And Harris is also a Voidwalker. You listen to the show, do you? That's really cool.
I do.
Thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited and thrilled and very humbled to be able to share whatever little stories and blips that have come to me. That, I mean, it's all exciting, and I try not to take everything that comes to me in my dreams so seriously, to try and leave it open to interpretation, to ask others, not to just go on my own like assumptions. So that's why like the Voidwalker community, it has helped me like open up my heart to like sharing my stories with people and not feeling like I'm alone. So it's right wonderful. Yeah.
That's what this community is about, man. I mean, like, this is a family of conscious explorers, and a lot of them are good folks. So we don't judge here, and we welcome all stories and all kinds. So yeah. So when you called in the last show, you're gonna have to refresh my memory here, because we've had a few. Were you the one that went to the camp? Was it the camping story where you saw the orbs, or was it something different? I forget which one it was.
I told a story back in, I believe, April, mid or early April, about my first DMT experience and how I met with metallic black beings in like a spaceship.
That's right. Yeah, I remember.
And that was very trippy. It was very like futuristic. Guys sitting on a floating chair analyzing me through a floating static screen, looking through my girlfriend's eyes, watching me, and then like I start creating energetic, projectiles in my hand on the screen, and it's strange, right? Like most people, they talk about like cool shapes and flowers, and I've seen the goddesses and met wonderful beings that have embraced me and everything, but my first time, like I was expecting to be almost a little bit let down. A lot of people say expect to be disappointed in your first trip because you might not do enough.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, with a little bit of, momentum and push from a third party, that person was like, no, we're going to help you, achieve, the breakthrough the very first time. And so that was very profound, and it really it added nitrous oxide to my research, and things started to trickle forward really, really fast. Yeah. So I had to keep expanding my dream state. I was taking things from DMT that were like, I felt like only available there. And I mean that in a sense of like, there's a sense of control or ability. When you get to the other side, you feel like you are in your higher self, your most, highest potential. And, and I realized I was, in many ways, I had to acknowledge that I was unfocused potential, and that I had to do, even now, I still had to do a lot of soul seeking and research, and just sort of being humble to the experience of life, right? But yeah.
So how many of these experiences do you think you've had altogether?
DMT or
Yeah.
dream, like prophetic dreams. DMT, I've had well over 200 now in the last 2.5, 3 years.
200.
Just because I had to step on the gas. Like after my first experience, I was extremely compelled to sort of take a break from mushrooms and from acid. And, and again, when I say that, I a lot of people in the mainstream would assume that's just reckless, drug use. But again, I use it in a very meditative sense. I don't go to parties and raves, as my little disclosure. I will sit at home and meditate and work with, active fields around me and strengthen my fields. And I find a lot of benefit in that. I use it very much like a tool. And same with, DMT. And so after that, especially learning of my lineage and coming to embrace that and accept that, I understood that I had the ability to use it, to strengthen my own metaphysical, abilities. And so that's what I did. I just stepped on the gas. A lot of people, they have one DMT experience and it blows their mind for the rest of their lives and they never need another one. I've met lots of people that they're like, nope, one was good enough for me, but there's just something that felt unanswered and unexplored. Each and every time I went back, I came back, with more questions than I came out with answers. And so a lot of people think that's like, bizarre that in the course of like 3 years, I cultivated my own stash, my own source, and I kept it, to myself, and I used it as, a meditation tool, a vehicle to, study the astral planes that exist around us. And, there's so many benefits to it, but there's many dangers that, there's a lot of dangers in that too, right? And so that's why I say to people that have not tried DMT for the first time or are thinking about doing it, or, go with set and setting, use, try and seek out someone that, is not there to abuse the situation or to take advantage of you or whatever it is. I've heard so many stories of people saying that, they were suffering. Sorry?
People get taken advantage of? What do you mean? Like date rape kind of stuff? Or?
Well, I worry about that too at like music festivals. I've been hearing about a trend where, there's a lot of younger crowds, both young girls and boys going to music festivals, and there's people walking around with vaporizers that have DMT in it.
Wow, okay.
And they're simply just handing it out like it's a shot of vodka, right? Which is a very dangerous, implication to treat it as such. If you do enough, you're going to step out of your body. It's like stepping out of your house without locking the door, and if you don't call in the right kind of energy to sort of lock the door behind you, something can, go back in while you're not there or wait for you, right, to go back, and it can mess you up, and there's dangers in that, right? Dangers in drinking and driving. That's why you shouldn't do it, so but yeah, I definitely heard. There's a woman that I met. She told me her sister was suffering from cancer, and that she thought that, she watched a documentary. She had seen these, wonderful videos, read books on DMT and ayahuasca, and she wanted to be a part of that and to heal, and potentially, like, she found there was a little bit of desperation in her seeking healing that she could have given herself, right? Just through, simple focused potential, right? But either way, this young gentleman, he found out, and he used her money to procure a bunch of, of DMT for said event. And then after he pretty much said, yeah, just smoke a bunch, vaporize it. And she did. And she started to open up, and her field started to become, visible to her. And she started to freak out, like, what do I do? What do I do? Meanwhile, he started to just drop and do DMT himself, and without protecting her, without doing any kind of ritual or ceremony to protect her energy, right? He wasn't being a teacher. He was being more of a fiend in the sense. And it's people like that need to be found, or at least be warned of, right? Those people need to be in their place, right?
Yeah, they need to be locked up, sounds like to me. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So when you talk about calling in these energies, what do you mean by that? Like, how do you call in energy?
So I started finding a practice, that strangely came to me intuitively, through channeling, especially through like dreamstate, which would influence whether or not I felt like I was ready for, another DMT ceremony, usually on, a solstice of some kind. But I started realizing that there was a protocol, a procedure of some kind, my own specific, ritual or ceremony, whether it's specific to my ancestors is not yet known to me. I've made very strange contact, not strange, but I've made very bizarre contact with my ancestors, that I've spooked my grandma, my Lola. Like, I told her stories about her father, who has been dead for well over a decade. And I spooked her, and she was like, oh my God, he's with you. He's with you. Like, I totally, I convinced her, and I've never met the guy physically, and so, and he passed away, when she was much, much younger. And, I barely heard any stories. All I knew is he was a witch doctor, and he would go off into the woods and disappear into the forest and go from village to village, healing people and doing miracles and stuff, which was like, I thought it was like hocus pocus until my mom told me when she was a child, she was possessed. And so of course, her grandfather did, a spiritual cleansing, and the whole village saw a white light fill the town, fill the village and everything. And this strange aura came over everything, and then it was gone. That's the kind of stuff that I see now that I've trained my eyes to see these energetic fields. So before I do any kind of ceremony, I practice my breathing, my holonomic breathing, because a lot of DMT can be found in our lungs, not in our heads, as we've so thought for so long, right? Like, our pineal gland is almost like a portal that gets activated by the DMT through our breath work. Which is why we inhale DMT or drink it in our stomachs, right? And then I also do callings. I call to my ancestors. I call to my spirits. I try and reinforce my surroundings, my setting, as I'm about to, project my consciousness out of my body. The last thing I want is to leave the house unattended. So I call in allies, right? Angels and spirits and entities, and
you gotta make sure the stove's off, right? You gotta make sure you don't leave the teapot on.
Exactly. Yeah, don't want to burn the house down while you're gone. So, it becomes a part of my everyday life then. And even when I'm not having ceremonies, the rituals carry on. And I don't know how many people out there that are listening that see them as well, but I see a lot of orbs or fields or mirages that move around and stuff, things like this, you know, you start to be able to train your eye to see the things that most people can't, you know, so it's.
So what kinds of things are around us that we're just totally oblivious to that, you know, I mean, for a fact, based on all of your 200 or so DMT experiences, the kinds of things that you see around us right now? Like, I'm standing here, I see normal life, but what is really around me?
I mean, like traditionally, when I'm not in a focused state, I can still see like fizzing energy and light. Like most people, if they focus long enough on trying, I mean, it's an impossible task, but if you try and see the air, if you try and focus on the space between you and, say, the wall, you know, I've read a fantastic book called The Celestian Prophecy that kind of touches down on this, where they actually talk in the book about how there's scientists in the mountains, you know, of South America at these like extremely private scientific resorts where they're practicing essentially spirituality, and they're trying to scientifically prove, you know, the concepts within spiritual practice through trying to see the fields, the energy fields. And so they say if you look at the sunset and you put your two fingers up to the sunset and bring them close enough and focus, you can try and train your eye to see the energy field, you know, around your body. And eventually you can train it to see those fields around all sorts of things like trees, dogs. I see it like, I'll see it more with like in the wind on like very like energetically charged days that are like super hot and then very cold in the evening. You know, stuff like that, or even flowers too. I'll see it around flowers, plants, you know, it's really where your focus is, like unfocused potential, I'd like to say.
So you see this stuff without taking DMT now, right?
Yes, correct.
Now, you do realize that if you tell some doctors that stuff, they're going to say you're schizophrenic, right? They're going to say you're crazy or you're seeing stuff. I mean, you hadn't had that happen, have you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a possibility, right? But like, again, I don't have auditory hallucinations in the sense where I hear a voice speaking to me, telling me to do things, whether it's good or bad. You know, I mean, it's something that I've been like struggling with, this is my approach, right? This is where I want to approach people that have been doing this a lot longer than me. Potentially even people that keep this to themselves out of whatever worry that they're going to be, you know, called crazy or something, right, or mentally ill. But I'm willing to roll that dice because, you know, with my family lineage, with, you know, witnesses, people that lived in a very third world country, you know, to say that your village was filled with light and, you know, there was exorcisms happening and spirits in the forest and all that. Like, if you believe in, you know, spirits, right, it's not hard to believe that there can be demons that, you know, can inhabit people's bodies, right? And so, like, in the Philippines, they believe very much that the forest possesses all kinds of life, including meta life, right? Like entities, spirits, and demons. And so they have like a deep respect for the forest, usually to stay out of the forest because there's predators, there's all kinds of things in there that can kill you. So, like, you know, a lot of these people, they live simple lives. You know, they'll usually say what they saw, not necessarily, you know, how they felt about the situation, or, you know, I don't know, that looks like fake news to me, man. You know, like, a lot of these people, they just call it what it is. This young girl was like speaking in tongues and now she's not. Yeah. You know, it's stuff like that. So yeah. I'm willing to take on the, you know, the ranks of people that, the criticism, essentially. Yeah.
That's good, because on this side of the pond or fence or whatever, you got to be willing to do that. Look, we're going to take our first break. I want to thank Solaris Blue Raven for sending out these wonderful books, 1 Million Miles to Midnight, Alien Intelligence, and her DVD, Eye of the Remote. Thank you so much, Solaris. We'll be right back with Harris. It's Listener Night here on Lighting the Void. Stay with us.
From a cave in the depths of your mind, it's Lighting the Void with Joe Root.
All right, man, this is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Hey, this is country music singer and Voidwalker Jason Benoit, and when I need my fix on the world of magic and the capabilities of the human consciousness, I listen to Joe Roop right here on Lighting the Void Radio.
This is Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races and your palms get sweaty. You don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
Please listen. Now is not the time to fear. When your immune system is strong, shields up. You have very little worries. If your immune system is compromised, you're susceptible to all viruses. I say shields up and no fear. Try Heart Love from GetTheTea.com. Heart Love has a special ingredient called allicin. It comes from the healing part of the garlic plant. No garlic breath, no garlic leaking out your pores, just pure immune-building ingredients that gets your shields up. Heart Love is a unique blend of herbs that loves to build you up. Google garlic and know the benefits. One Heart Love pill is equal to 20 cloves of garlic. 20 cloves. Shields up. You've heard of our Life Change Cleansing Tea at GetTheTea.com. Now try Heart Love. And by the way, take your blood pressure and watch weekly what happens. So here's how to purchase. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. And build your shields. That's GetTheTea.com. Mention Ray in the coupon code and hit apply and receive free shipping.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Hey, I'm J.M. DeBoard, and when I want to talk about dreams, I look up my man Joe Root and his show, Lighting the Void.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. It's Listener Night here with Harris, our one and only Voidwalker, one of our only Voidwalkers. Speaking of which, join our Patreon where you can sign up for all kinds of lovely things, tarot readings, the Astral Journal, the Outside the Shack podcast, All kinds of cool stuff over there. Just go to lightingthevoid.com, click on the Patreon banner, or go to patreon.com/LTV radio. Earlier, a tweet came out from Dave at Surviving the System here. Says, I don't know, everyone was having phone disruptions earlier. And I don't know, maybe we were, maybe we weren't, but that this week they were adding COVID-19 trackers to our phones. Did y'all check this out? So there's COVID-19 trackers to our phones. If you have an Android phone, Dave says go under settings, then Google settings, and it's there. If you have an iPhone, go to settings, privacy, then health, and stay alert. Mine, I checked mine. Mine's off, I guess, unless you turn the Bluetooth on, but they're already adding COVID-19 stuff to our telephones. Isn't that something? Pretty cool. Harris, sorry about that, buddy. I just had to get that out. Listen, here's what I'm worried about, this DMT stuff. I watched some things like, there's a difference between DMT and then like 5-MeO DMT. I don't know if you ever saw that video of that woman just screaming at the top of her lungs like she was, in terror when these guys gave her DMT. But I'm just curious, out of the 200 or so episodes you've had, which is pretty radical, by the way, how many of them were like 5-MeO DMT? Do you know?
I would probably say these were all NN DMT, the much more like widely known variant. They were never screaming, like I've never personally experienced that or been around someone that has ever reacted so perversely like that. Granted, I have heard those stories. I've met people that say, again, more stories of people being taken advantage of, in the sense where a very pseudo shaman wants to, he believes in light work, but, again, maybe it's not all quite there, like in terms of his commitment. And a lot of the time it's, these pseudo shamans, they bring people into, their homes, or they're invited into their homes, and, exchanges of funds are given, and, substances are consumed, but a lot of the time there's no proper ceremony. I've met people that said they had very traumatic experiences where they had a breakthrough dose, and they saw something very traumatic on the other side, whether it was an entity doing something weird or making a face at them, or something very challenging. I find like a lot of the time, sometimes after very long hiatuses, I'm presented with like a puzzle. A lot of the time I'm given like a puzzle to see if I can solve it. If, like almost like earning, it's almost like a password, you're trying to solve the puzzle and the door is unlocked. And so I've met people where they've experienced like that. In a sense, they've described like being given a very complex puzzle to the point where it's overwhelming and they force themselves back out. But once you've decided to force your way back into your body, you're still experiencing the effects of DMT. So it can, you come back in a very hyper ecstatic state. And so she came back and said that these two guys, they were just sitting there, drinking wine and watching TV and stuff, very, very unprofessional and, very unsympathetic to what she was going through. And she started to panic. And because they couldn't calm her down, they couldn't calm the energy down in the room, she decided to make the best call for her well-being, which was to an ambulance. She decided to, she was like, nope, I'm done. I'm going to call an ambulance. And they were like, whoa, no, you're not. And she's like, yeah, I am. Like, this is, I'm very uncomfortable with this. And you guys are just, rummaging around the house and, and she started throwing up and she started acting very, she started to be in a very hyper ecstatic state that was like, borderline, like, she was ready to start screaming, right, at these guys. And she was still experiencing like entities that had come back with her into the room. And it was like freaking her out. And they were like, okay, we're leaving. They packed up their stuff and they left her there. And she ended up calling an ambulance. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that is not the kind of practice that true light workers should have. That, I've seen people that they're there for the whole thing. They're with you. They're committed. They are holding down the space. They're meditating with you, watching, observing you, they're using their voice, because a lot of time with DMT, your auditory receptors are unaffected. So people can still talk to you while you're in that state, right? So to know that you have a voice guide to guide you and to ask you questions, what do you see and everything, and describe to me, how do you feel and everything? And, well, I don't know, I feel uncomfortable there. Okay, all right, come back towards the light, come back towards the light, be here and everything, be present, right? And those are the things that practitioners should be doing.
Okay, well, here's the thing. So when you inhale a big, like, rip of DMT, like the first, big rip.
Oh, yeah.
What are the first things that start happening?
I start to notice that things start, sharp edges become very round. You start to notice that the fabric of your perception starts to come apart. For example, one thing I like to keep around me as sort of like the equivalent of like what a skydiver wears on his wrist, to know when it's time to pull his chute. He'll wear like a gauge. I carry like an orgone generator. It's like a medallion. And, my first dose will usually, it actually appears to come apart completely in my hands. It slowly separates itself, which is a rather like fascinating experience to see in itself. But then that lets you know that's
the ride has started, right? Yeah, okay.
Exactly. The shattering of the illusion, the veil is starting to fall and wear thin, and you're able to start seeing things as they really are. I would say in the first dose, like I would call that like, you're still coherent. You're still here. Like if you took a small first dose, like you hear the frequencies, you feel the strange, anxious vibrations shooting up from your feet to your head. And you start to see light in a fourth dimension. You can actually see beams of light usually, or at least I can, and others that I've, done ceremonies with.
And this is one bong rip or pipe hit or what?
I usually will use a vaporizer just because it's very efficient and tougher. I've learned that from many broken pipes and bongs that, glass tends to break when you're like, because you start to lose your motor skills and your hands start to become pretty limp, right? This is why assistance is usually necessary. And it's good to do this with people you trust, people that you feel comfortable doing this with, not strangers.
Disclosure, by the way, we're not promoting any type of drug use or illegal drug use. We're simply listening to this man's testimony. That's it. All right. Yeah. So, secondly, second rip. You take another big rip. Now what happens? Now what do you see?
Oh, that's when now like things are really starting to dismantle. You're right now, like, this is the airplane, the back of the wheels on the plane have now just, taken off the tarmac, and, like, it's time for that last third one to really get thrust and like soar. So in that sense, like two can be comparable to one in a sense, but if you close your eyes, you start to get visuals. Usually depending on, on the setting where you are, and your mind space as well. That's another thing that I learned the hard way, is that your final thoughts as you're taking that second dose, and even third as well, your final thoughts get locked in with you. You know, like they
get locked in. That's a trippy thought.
It locks in, right? So like, you know, for people, I've had friends that, you know, or even other practitioners that, you know, they've had a hard week, or they had a fight with, you know, a parent or a girlfriend. Yeah. And, you know, right as they're taking that second hit or third hit, they make the fatal error of, you know, being like, oh no, and they have that thought, and then it locks in, it gets frozen in time with you as you're doing takeoff, right? Like the G-force of like the metaphorical G-force of you taking that second and third hit is sort of pushing you into the back of your seat, keeping you in place, as well as your thoughts as you're taking off, right? And you can work through that once you're on the other side and you've slowed down a little bit enough to like absorb and digest data around you. You know, again, that comes from a lot of experience. That comes
would be
from
a trip, right? So somebody scolds you, right? And the thought of it gives you the gut punch, you know, that gut punched feeling. Yeah. And then it takes off from there. Man, that's not fun. So, this is like again, about
people need to know that.
So this is why you guys talk about setting and all that. So you make sure your vibes are good before you take off, I guess, huh?
Of course. And I've told people that were talking to me before it, and they were like, you know, I don't know, man, like you tell me, like I've been kind of going through a lot, and like, you know, I have a lot on my mind. I want to do this ceremony, and then that's usually when I'll say, you shouldn't do it then. You know, like there should not be a forced sense of presence there. And a lot of the time I'll tell people that don't feel up to it, whether it's clients or whether it's, you know, it's other practitioners, I'll tell them, you know what, be there at least. Be in my presence, please, and hold the space down and meditate with me then. And, you know, and manifest positive thoughts, right? Use this time while I'm supercharging the energy in the room, you know, to do that for yourself, to absorb some of that energy, right? And that's why I also say, like, DMT is not, it's not the end all be all. It's like a training, you know, simulator. It's a tool if you use it right. And eventually you can do those things without any external, you know, substance or additive, right, to your mind, you know.
Here's what trips me up, Harris. When people talk about, you know, because I listen to Terrence McKenna. I love listening to the guy talk, by the way. And I listen to this guy talk, and he talks about taking this third hit. But what you're explaining to me, I don't think it would be even possibility to do that. Do you have to have assistance to do that, or at that point? I mean, you probably can't even feel your hands. Or how do you do that?
It helps. It depends on the medium that you're using, your vehicle. Let's say your vaporizer is a vehicle that you're using. Everything you put inside that vehicle is going to carry. I would use a handheld, you know, box mod vaporizer. I quit smoking cigarettes, but like I kept the vaporizer. Yeah.
Am I going to get sued for this? Does anybody know? Can somebody DM me and let me know if I'm going to get sued for this or not? Anyways, like, disclaimer.
I'm just telling my story.
This is the testimony. So you've managed to get to that third hit, right?
Yeah. Well, and usually if you're holding, you know, a solid box mod in your hands, all you have to do is hold that button down, essentially, and the assistance comes from reloading it. But otherwise, yeah, you could use a bong or a pipe if you want. I feel
getting awful detailed here, Harris. Like, that's great.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're gonna yeah. Like I'm just sharing what works for me.
I got you. So tell me.
I would hope that people use their discernment to essentially, figure out how they want to go about this. I can't tell people what to do, but I can certainly tell them what's efficient and safest,
Sure. Okay. So tell me, when you go through this breakthrough, everybody talks about the chrysanthemum. That's what Terrence McKenna calls it, the chrysanthemum. Like, what is that? Have you been to that place?
It is kind of a place. I would almost say that he tells people about that as sort of an introduction. That I saw what was described to me through words and eventually experienced, in person for myself, this chrysanthemum. I see it almost like the introduction. And after that, like, you see things that almost they're 10 times beyond this chrysanthemum, and you're never quite sure if you're going to hit a new plateau and then you break through that one. But this chrysanthemum is almost,
I think that's what he calls it. I don't know.
It's like, the middle of the pool. Right. And, which is interesting. Like I for a long time, I had so much expectation about this chrysanthemum, and, and then sure enough, I found my way in possession of, enough DMT to, last me a lifetime. Granted, it only lasted me a summer, but I learned a lot from that.
Hold up, back up. What do you mean? How did that happen? Did you roll up on somebody that just was loaded, or what happened? How'd that happen?
No, I learned how to extract it. I made it myself, and that was that. I didn't want to. I didn't trust the sources that existed out there, and a lot of the time, people. This is where I talk about pseudo, light workers or shamans or whatever they want to call themselves. But it's these people that they will charge you exorbitant amounts of money, without putting a number out there. They charge you a lot of money for a very, very little amount and expect that to be fair trade. And a lot of the time they're doing it because it's so rare to come by.
Stupid.
And,
they're always trying to rip you off.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And when you're dealing with, I hate to say it, when you're dealing with, dealers, you start to get the shaft. You start to get the short end of the stick, right? I want to work with other practitioners that use this like a tool that are going to. There has to be some kind of exchange to make sure that everything goes round. But it has to be reasonable. It has to be to the point where everyone's like, yeah, I'm happy. You're happy. Okay. Thank you. And everyone's grateful for the exchange. And those are the people that I work with. A lot of the time, it's gifted, which is strangely enough, a lot of the time in the right circles, it's a gift because it really is. It would be strange if I gave you a tool for Christmas, and then I was like, well, here's the receipt and everything, you can pay me back, so I look at it like that. It should be used like a tool, and in the right hands, in the right set and setting, it can be, a phenomenal, training grounds, because then, I don't even need it anymore. That's the wonderful thing, So
you can have an experience like this without ever having to inhale the substance anymore. Is that what you're saying?
In a lesser degree, absolutely. I can, interact with things that, granted, that also leaves me open to constantly dealing with, nuisance, entities and stuff. Some that, they want attention and they want to be, they want to bother you and stuff, right? Just like if you've ever experienced, DMT on the other side, sometimes there's creatures and entities that, they're just very lesser in the grand scheme of things, in the light spectrum, and they almost act more like a pest rather than like a teacher or something. And so,
are these the machine elves everyone talks about? Or are these something totally different?
I would say that's more specific to over there. Again, that's me, but I definitely see a lot of like, I'll see a lot of like white lights or swooping white shadows or black shadows. Occasionally I'll see, orbs, blue and white orbs. More recently with this whole COVID junk thing, I've been seeing a lot of gold orbs in the air, which is very strange in shapes. I've been starting to see like red squares and triangles and strange stuff like that even like some of my other like close friends that are they're practitioners, very strong practitioners like myself, they've witnessed things that I've even seen, which again is a comforting feeling for those scientists or doctors out there that would call me schizophrenic. There's people that are sober like me hanging out in the downtown core, and we both point at something that we saw, and we're like, and then we look at each other and we're like, you saw that too, right? And they're like, yeah. So it's stuff like that. You start to see the same things. It's almost like a shared consciousness.
So you guys think that possibly that you guys are seeing another reality because of this substance that's actually there that the regular human eye doesn't see? That's what you're saying. That possible is what I'm saying.
Very, very, very humbly and very possibly, yes. Again, with no definitive evidence. I'm sure if we got like 1,000 people together in a field and we all, meditated and did ceremony and everything and, did all the proper rituals, I'm sure we would all probably see the exact same things, and have a complete agreement, amongst each other, which is, one of the things that I envision for, the future of society. I think that we're done with being industrial creatures.
We need to do that. We need to have a Voidwalker meditation retreat, sit in the middle of a field, good starry night, and just start looking at, red squares that are flying by or whatever it is. Right? Sounds like fun to me. That's cool, man. All right. Well, here, look, we're at the top of the hour, but when we come back, I want to get into some deeper stuff, like the deeper stuff that you talked about when you called into the show that one night, like who's the wizard behind the machine kind of stuff, see what's going on with that.
Behind the machine.
Yeah. The man behind the curtain, the elf behind the machine, maybe. And we'll be right back. More Lighting the Void coming up here at the top of the hour. Stay with us.
And you're listening to The Fringe FM.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by earlobes. Remember, when asked to name their favorite flap of flesh that dangles uselessly from their bodies, more people said earlobes than any other fold of tissue. Yes, earlobes. They're soft, they're squishy. They stop your ears from ending too abruptly. They're earlobes.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new paranormal radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hey, this is No Way Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a Voidwalker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLK-DB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Root on the Fringe FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney. your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a Voidwalker.
G'day, Voidwalkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Root.
Hey, this is V, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a Voidwalker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner Voidwalker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I'll guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Root in the show, and heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new Art Bell. Thanks for all your shows, and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, a.k.a. the Night Stalker, and I'm a Voidwalker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all of the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a Voidwalker. Thanks, Joe Root.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to The Fringe FM.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Have you ever seen an ad or banner which brought you a feeling that someone is reading your mind or even listening to your conversations? Your online data is being used against you. Surfshark is a VPN service that makes online privacy protection easy and attainable. You can use it on as many devices as you'd like simultaneously. Surfshark encrypts all internet traffic sent to and from your devices and ensures that your IP address remains hidden. The VPN service that we use at UFO Seekers plus 1 month free for $1.99 a month. Visit surfshark.deals/seekers.
We all have that story to tell in our lives. The winds were howling. The ground shook. You could hear rushing water. And then, history repeats itself. When there's no power, refrigeration fails. Stores with their shelves strip bare. ATMs can't operate. Deliveries stop. Then what? These events can last days or weeks. You need a plan. In statements made during recent interviews, FEMA Administrator Brock Long has repeatedly urged all Americans to understand 3 truths. FEMA is broke. The system is broken. If this is the new normal, Americans can't rely on federal cavalry when disaster strikes. Don't get caught out in the elements empty-handed. Prepare with us by going to preparewiththefringe.com and get your 2-week food supply. 92 servings, 8 food varieties with 25-year shelf life. Normally $137, now only $75. Or get a month's supply, normally $247, now only $147 shipped in 1 business day. Just go to preparewiththefringe.com or call 888-440-7931. That's 888-440-7931. Get this great offer and be prepared while it lasts.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by Chaw Mouthwash, the all-new, all-tobacco juice mouthwash that yellows your teeth and leaves your breath tasting tobacco fresh. That's Chaw Mouthwash, available everywhere in the handy spittoon-shaped bottle.
Hey, Fringe listeners, this is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange Radio, asking you to join us live Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fringe FM. Visit BeyondTheStrange.com for links to chat, social media, and schedules of the show. And remember, always stay strange. Hasta.
Paranormal News, I'm Brad Bernards. NASA's chief says he wants to step up flight opportunities for astronauts, according to a report in Space.com. In a tweet Friday, June 19th, NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine said his space agency plans to drop a request for information to fly astronauts on commercial suborbital spacecraft. RFIs are competitive processes for NASA to make an informed choice between proposals from private companies based on qualifications it defines for participants. Bridenstine's announcement comes 3 weeks after NASA and SpaceX successfully flew astronauts into space. NASA astronauts Bob Behnken Rankin and Doug Hurley piloted SpaceX's commercial crew vehicle, Crew Dragon, as part of the Demo 2 flight to the International Space Station. As the largest scientific instrument on the planet enters its twilight years, CERN scientists have been facing the question of what next after the Large Hadron Collider. Following extensive debate, The Guardian reports that they appear to have landed on an answer: go bigger or go home.
The Future Circular Collider, FCC, will be the next instrument that we have to build if we want to continue to be in the path of discovery.
There is a lot more to learn still, and we have to.
If we stop exploring, then basically we stop evolving.
Discovery of the Higgs boson was a big deal, but this is only the beginning of the story.
We've scratched the surface, but we have clearly much more to discover.
Some question whether the scientific promise of the gigantic machine justifies the anticipated €20 billion price tag for construction. Connect with the news at parabnormalradio.com. I'm Brad Bernards, Parabnormal News.
Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal, there's a show called Into the Paranormal. I'm Jeremy Scott. Hear me live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS speed rescue.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
And welcome back to our second hour here of Lighting the Void live on the Fringe FM. If you enjoy this broadcast, please go to lightingthevoid.com. Sign up for the Patreon where you can get access to all of our behind-the-scenes content, the Astral Journal, Outside the Shack podcast, all the polls, behind the scenes, tarot readings, astrology readings, all of the good stuff, even behind-the-scenes content right here from this show that never gets aired anywhere else besides there. That's at lightingthevoid.com. Just click on the Patreon banner or donate. Grab something from our store. Please support the show. Harris is here with us tonight. He's a Voidwalker who called into the show not too long ago and started talking to us about some crazy DMT experiences. And our man, our producer here, Pacho, decided it would probably be a good idea to have him on the show. So that's what we're doing. And it's been a blast so far. Now, I remember last time, Harris, you're still here with us, by the way. You didn't even disappear anywhere, did you? You still here?
I am here, sir.
Fantastic. Listen, last time you were on the show, I think we cut you off as you were talking about this story, about this thing in the chair. You got to retell the story, because it started sounding to me like this. You know what? You ever hear these Gnostic guys? They talk about archons and stuff, right? Well, this is what the hell this thing sounded like. This is what it sounded like. Can you walk us through that experience again? Now, I'm just guessing here. I'm probably wrong, but yeah, take us through that chair experience again, please.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what led up to it was was New Year's Eve, and I was with my girlfriend at the time, and a friend of ours, and we were hanging out, and it was the end of the night. I'd just gotten off shift. We were hanging out at our friend's place, and he sort of, sprung this, this substance that we have been talking about right on me, and without knowing, and I had no like experience beforehand, but I had read extensively about it. So I felt really good making that decision. And so I remember the first hit that I took, I definitely got those like crazy, frequency shivers. And I was, all of a sudden like in a hyper ecstatic state. I was like, whoa, what's going on around me? And then I took that second hit. Things started to like this very loud, in the beginning, very uncomfortable, high tone or high pitch frequency started like, I felt like I was sitting next to an airplane that was ready to take off, which is why like I use, airplanes as my analogy a lot of the times for, understanding, breakthrough, right, and take off with this. And so as I took that third hit, like rainbow paint came shooting out of my ears and started like coating me, almost like in the Matrix where Neo touches the mirror and it coats him in like silver. And this rainbow paint started to engulf me, and my vision went fish-eyed, and I could see around the entire room and all the way behind me, and I got like blasted through this like really fast portal into this other side. And that's when I was like floating around in this like ether. And in the beginning, you go through the initial phase of like, oh my God, I'm dead. I just killed myself or something. You freak out and everything. But then you start to like calm yourself down. You're like, well, I can hear my voice. I seem to be fine. Like I have a heartbeat and I'm breathing. So I'm clearly not dead. So you start to become curious and you start to explore. And that's when I became aware of my surroundings, and I saw these like human-sized incubators that were filled with humans that were sleeping. And
what the hell? Like the Matrix, huh?
Like the Matrix, right? But not like so well organized like the Matrix. Very, very disorganized, but like, like endless ethers of, floating eggs of humans, and they were all sleeping. But right behind me was a broken egg. Like I had broken out of it. And there was these electrical arcs, these plasma arcs that were like, it was like a battery that was disconnected from its source but was nearby, and it was like creating these arcs of electricity. And I was like, whoa, like, no, I don't want to go back inside of that thing. That looks freaky. So I like backed away from it. And I immediately was like engulfed in this new surrounding, this new ether, like it, it's like a TV show going from scene to scene. All of a sudden I felt like I was in another place. And I was at the bottom of this like beautiful ocean of, there was coral and, colorful coral of like, oranges and yellows and purples. And there was fish swimming around and creatures and stuff that were like beyond my comprehension. And I saw this like figure off in the distance. Like I looked up as if I was, at the bottom of like, the deepest ocean I had ever been at the bottom of. And I could see straight to the top, filled with light and sunsets and emotions and like the
Wait, what does emotions look like? Just different colors?
Well, I would say it's a connection to, whatever you're surrounded by. Like I've done DMT ceremonies where I dropped into like a black room. like an endless black ether, and there was all these rainbow people. You know, there was all these different people in the spectrum of the rainbow staying within their colors, and they were all interacting and talking to each other. And I was like sort of this, you know, I was still me, this like tan person wearing clothes and like bumping into them and sort of walking through this spectrum of colors. And I was like, oh my goodness, like if I don't belong with these with these colors, where do I belong? You know, I must not exist. And then these like crazy rainbow astronauts like snatched me up in their spaceship. And, you know, they were like, dude, don't worry about that stuff. Like, don't think about those negative thoughts. You're going to be doing what we're doing one day. Like, this is what you need to be focused on. Focus on positive stuff, bringing positive energy and light into your world. Right. And I was, you know, like stuff like that. But regardless, coming back to the initial story, those astronauts are from another story. But after like I'd seen this like sunset ocean that like filled me with a sense of peace, with a sense of I was in the right place at the right time. Like there was no, you didn't feel like you made a mistake being there. And so that was like it put me at ease. Like anything before that made me feel anxious about, you know, making this decision was gone. You know, any of those thoughts were gone. And that's when I turned around. I felt this presence behind me, and I saw this like this dark room. I was inside a dark, foggy room, and I saw like a static TV screen like floating in the air, casting light in one direction along this like foggy, dark room. And so I moved towards it, and I stood sort of off to the side of this static TV or holographic floating screen. And I heard these voices in the background, and they were saying like, what is he doing here? He's not supposed to be here yet. Like, he's too soon. He's too early. Like, you know, he doesn't have the abilities for this yet. And then this, you know, gigantic, like 12-foot, like metallic human, you know, sitting on a floating chair, wearing like a suit and a tie, and like, you know, glimmering in the light of this static. He came floating forward on his chair, and telepathically, without even moving his lips, you know, he told all these voices in the background to be silent.
It's so scary,
that he
man.
wanted to hear. Yeah, of course. I myself, I was more terrified than curious at that point. I was like, what does he mean? You know? And so, sure enough, I looked at the television screen, and it was a vision. It was through the vision of my girlfriend watching my sleeping body, you know, or my unconscious body, you know, while I was doing this DMT experience. Except I started doing things on the TV screen that my girlfriend and my friend both said that I never moved.
Was your girlfriend tripping at? Well, was your girlfriend under the influence at the same time as well?
No, not at all. Actually, she's quite the opposite. You know, she's curious, but I think a little too timid or afraid of these things. These are, you know, unless
she was observing. Okay.
She was observing. Yeah, she was definitely observing. Just she was more freaked out than anything, because like she like said that my body became a little bit cold and that my breathing became very shallow. But then like our friend was like, no, he's fine. Just like be there with him. You know, you know, that's all you can do, right? And not panic or anything like that. And so, you know, she did that, and I was fine. You know, I displayed some strange ability on this TV screen of me creating this like energy ball, this like projectile of some sorts. And when I realized that I was watching my body, when I started to recognize my body on the TV screen, that's when I that's when the energy ball like came apart. You know,
Now, how much time do you think had passed at this point?
It honestly, it felt like an hour, you know, or two. And I came back, and you know, and they were like, and even then it was strange. I said that it felt like an hour, but then I also said it felt like I was gone for like 2 minutes. And they were like, no, you were gone for 15. You know, and I was like, that's so strange. Like, time completely slows down. There's, you know, like, time is not even a concept there. Like, I've tried everything from like putting my phone in front of me with a timer going, and like, and you know, doing like a ceremony and just watching the time on my phone speed up, which is strange. You know, like I've watched like clocks and watches, like I've watched digital watches like freeze in time. And then I've watched like clocks in front of me, you know, like analog clocks, they start speeding up. You know, my cell phone goes haywire when I'm around it and I do like ceremony. So I just keep my phone away from me now at this point. I don't even let technology, I don't even let technology get involved in that kind of process anymore at this point. I think technology has its place, and, you know, that's why I say, like, I think we should come into balance with natural technologies, but I think things like social media, you know, things like that should, you know, stay away from those worlds, right?
Yeah, sure. I totally agree, but I'm more concerned about the guy in the chair with all the voices. I mean, did you take him out? Did he disappear? What happened to all the people? Like, did it all just disappear, or what?
I only saw the one individual. And after I had displayed these abilities on this holographic floating screen, he was like rested up against his one hand. Like his hand was like propped up on the side of his face, like he was observing. He was being observant of what I was displaying. And he barely moved. I saw his one hand on his like holographic touchpad on his floating chair that moved a little bit, and all I heard him say was interesting. And then that was it.
Huh?
And he floated back into the shadows, and I got pushed back into my body. You know, it was
now
I felt like I was running.
Now, when you say pushed back into your body, have you had a local out-of-body experience without dimethyltryptamine?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Is it the same thing?
That was freaky. I wouldn't say it's the same thing, but it's like on a spectrum. I start to notice that a lot of these parallel experiences that we have are on a spectrum of extremes and mild, you know, experiences. I have like had, the Night Stalker just shared like the most epic photo that describes.
Is that what it looks like?
What I saw. Something as cool as that. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe not as many flashing lights, but definitely like very cool. But it's on a spectrum of experience. I've had like, I was standing in front of my mom and my brother, and I was holding a cup, and I was sober. Like I was sober. I was holding a cup of water, you know, to be that visceral with how sober I was. And I got extremely lightheaded all of a sudden, and I started to see fractals, like incredibly complex and fractals that took over my visual, and it like blinded me, and it overwhelmed my senses so much that I collapsed in front of them. And thank God, like my brother, he quickly like grabbed the cup out of my hand. Otherwise I would have smashed it into my face or something. But I fell backwards, and I kind of caught myself on the shelf and everything I was standing next to, and it freaked my mom out, and it freaked my brother and myself as well out.
Hold on a second. You help me understand this. Correct in here. Your mother was there too?
Sure. Yeah.
So you got your girlfriend, your mother. How many people was there when this happened?
Just me, my mom, my brother. This has happened in front of other crowds of people as well.
Nope.
But more
doesn't care that you're doing this stuff, or I'm sorry, I'm just curious. You have to forgive me.
No, fair enough. I come from a really healthy place with it. I've slowly educated her on the dangers, as well as the sort of the implications of dabbling in this kind of, I wouldn't even say dabbling, I would say swimming in these kind of waters, right? This is, in a sense, kind of my career choice, right? I'm embracing my lineage, and she accepts that. Maybe not so much in the extreme of seeing me like faint or pass out in front of them. No mother wants to see that ever, I'm sure. But I've shown her through my own trials and tribulations and displays of my own mental and spiritual health and strength, that she is comfortable, knowing that, I do this sort of stuff. Obviously not quite comfortable with seeing, phasing light coming back from other dimensions or things like that. But I share stories with her. She knows that I've done exorcisms on houses and stuff, and people that are haunted by spirits. She knows that. And, to people like us, to my mother who's experienced, having an exorcism done to her, she's a stronger person, a stronger woman for it, right?
What do you know about this exorcism? Were you present?
During hers, no. She was 9 years old.
Okay.
She was younger, actually. She was 6 years old. But I have performed exorcisms myself with other trained, practitioners like me, in very open crowd witnesses, with multiple practitioners, not just me and one guy. It's many people with many backgrounds, and they're herbalists or witches, or they're practicing magicians and stuff like that. I have quite a strong community of of practitioners that I call family, and more so than friends. So
I understand that. Believe me, I understand that. Okay. So tell me then, after you wake up from this experience, your girlfriend realizes that you're not going to die. What do you think after that whole experience that happened? Did you have any inkling that you had just talked to a being from another dimension, or was it from this dimension? I mean, what was your gut telling you?
Oh, my gut was telling me I went somewhere. My gut told me I went somewhere and I met something, someone, a being, right? And I don't know what. It definitely did not identify itself to me. So in that sense, I would use my discernment to, before calling this entity an ally or a foe, right? It would be foolish of me to give labels to something that I don't understand. But I definitely I'm observant, and I try and use my powers of discernment to feel the energy. I didn't feel a negative energy force, and I have from being around other entities, even humans here. You get that strange tingling sensation that someone around you is you don't maybe want to be around them, or maybe they're not the nicest person that they're pretending to be around you or something. You get that gut feeling, and
yeah, I know.
So
all right. Yeah, well, you're always gonna go with your gut, man, and especially in those kind of situations, right?
Yeah.
So I would like to hear about these exorcisms, because I'm curious as to what types of things that people hold within themselves that need to be exorcised. Other than the Christian modality of exorcism, what is the shamanic exorcism portray? What's that about?
So if you want me to tell you that, I'd like to share a prophetic dream that I had with you, and obviously with your viewers, and I'll lead up to that, and you can sort of you can decide for yourself what you think of that.
Perfect, because that's exactly what I want to do right after this break. How about that? We'll do that. Prophetic dream coming up with Harris, Voidwalker, and Listener Night here on Lighting the Void. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Short break.
This is Rev Dan Lopez from Spiritual Warrior Today Radio, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
This is Al. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing his journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening. Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
Hi, this is David Oman with HouseAtTheEndOfTheDrive.com. You're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by Ed's Genetic Engineering Laboratories and Discount Warehouse, bringing you a brighter and more exciting tomorrow through hideous biological mutation. This week only, stop by Ed's and save 50% on his selected supply of slightly used chromosomes.
Hi, this is Kronox from Belgium, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
This is Malorcas45, fan of the Fringe FM, challenging everyone to open their mind's eye. Listen to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop to gain precision for your third eye vision.
Alex Exum.
This is Alex Exum of the Exum Experience in Live Talk, where we discuss current events, society, and culture. My shows are based in actuality, actual existence, contrasted with what was intended, expected, or believed. You can listen to me live Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. only on KTLK, The Fringe FM.
All right, we're back here with Harris, our Voidwalker. Good God, Harris! I don't even know if I asked you how long have you been listening to this show? Out of curiosity.
Coming up on 2.5 years. Oh my goodness! Wow.
2.5 years. I'll just start handing out like plaques or something for that. All right, like I should give away something. Like you deserve a T-shirt, brother, for real. You know what?
Oh.
You hit me up. You got a full color T-shirt, man. That's all yours. 2.5 years. That's worth it, right? Everybody's gonna start hitting me up. I've been listening 2.5 years. But thanks for coming on the broadcast, man. It's really cool. So as we were going into the break, we've talked about your DMT experiences. You've taken us through all these different modalities, and you met some crazy guy in a chair. You had a crazy experience, and your girlfriend watched over you and your mother and your family, and now you want to tell me about a prophetic dream that you had. How long ago did you have this dream?
This one was maybe 7 months ago, going on 8. This would be 8 months.
8 months. Well, tell us about it.
So before I start, do you want to know the title of it, or do you want me to surprise everyone so I don't taint your thoughts on how it ends?
Let's not taint anything. Let's just go for it.
Okay. All right, then. So this dream starts with parallels that sort of match what was going on in my life at the time. I had a business partner that was also a mentor to me that passed away not too long ago, and rest his soul and everything. But he was looking to purchase a large piece of land from a lady whose husband had passed away, and he had left behind a gigantic, enormous race empire back in Alberta, and and so either way, he wanted to purchase this land from her so that we could start sort of like an off-grid shipping container home community / like experimental living, and sort of, sell this idea to people that they can live, economically and become strong, strong contributors to their community by being able to afford to, right? So this was all very sound logic, and we wanted to proceed forward, but my business mentor he fell ill with an incurable disease, and that was very unfortunate, and he lived his life, as he wanted right to the very end, and passed away in his home with his wife and kids there. But regardless, this dream has parallels with that. And so in this dream now, I had awoken on this land, this open grass field. And I was looking around. I felt like I was sort of laying in the grass, and I had sat up from a nap. And essentially I saw this house, this beautiful Victorian house sitting in the middle of this field. And there was all these people gathering around this house, almost like a barbecue. And I was like, what's going on? So I wandered over to this property, and it was actually a wake. Someone was, they were celebrating the life of someone who had passed away, a husband. Everyone was wearing black except for the wife, the widow. She was wearing this beautiful floral dress, white dress with flowers on it, and she was using a walker to get around, and her granddaughter was assisting her, and so everyone was it was a lot of noise. There was a lot of hustle and bustle, and everyone's laughing and talking and telling stories and reminiscing and stuff. And, I decided to sort of wander and to go inside the house and look around. And
you're so brave.
So as I'm walking, sorry?
I'm just saying, you're a brave man. Go ahead.
I try and be courageous, you know, in the face of uncertainty, but
Right on, bro.
you know, I sort of walked off into the unknown here. And,
Well, you're a true Voidwalker.
I started seeing all these. I try.
All right, man. Sorry.
So I see all these, like, you know, family photos, and I could see photos of the husband and wife. They would ride motorcycles together, and like this felt very real, like I was there. And I was looking at very detailed family photos of this couple and their years riding together, and you know,
That sounds awesome.
And so I you know, I found my way upstairs into this sort of lookout, this like attic that had been turned into like a guest room or something, or you know, like almost like a playroom for like you know, a little girl or something, right? And so I was looking out over this like field of people gathered, and then this the widow, she came up the stairs, and you know, she was holding the railing, her granddaughter was with her, and and she came and sat down next to me. She sat down on the bed. I was sitting on the chair, and she started speaking to me, and you know, I had a conversation with her, and she said, you know, like, I can't believe it, you know, I'm after all these years, all I'm left with is, you know, these pictures, and you know, I'm left here alone. I'm surrounded by all these people, and yet, you know, I feel like I don't know anyone. And you know, I said to her, you know, what did you like to do, you know, when you were younger? And she's like, we would go riding together, me and my husband. And I said, well, why can't you? And she's like, well, I'm old now. And I said to her, not really. You know, I told her, I was like, that's very much the opposite, actually. And she's like, how so? I'm like, well, every time you remember your husband, he lives on in your memories. Like you know, he becomes immortal when you do that. And there was like a youthfulness in her face and her eyes that came through. And I was like, I could see it. And she, all of a sudden, this energy, this light around her started to glow. And she, like, you know, she had her walker up there, like it was, you know, and she just set it aside. And she was like, you know what? I am going to go riding. And, you know, her granddaughter helped her down the stairs, and she's like, are you sure, Grandma? Like, I don't know if you should do that. She's like, nonsense, I got this, you know, like she had this like spunky attitude all of a sudden. And, you know, it was a beautiful moment. And so I decided to head back downstairs to join everyone. And there was all these like race cars and motorcycles on this yard, on this gigantic acreage. And I'm looking at all these cool, like, muscle cars and stuff that, like, I resonate with, you know, from my childhood and everything. And so all of a sudden these, like, crazy dirt bike kids, like, come out of nowhere and start creating this weird vortex of, you know, of dirt. And they start surrounding everyone in, like, almost like Mad Max style. They're chasing everyone off this property. And so I jump in one of the muscle cars, and my brother's there all of a sudden, my younger brother. And we punch it. We get out of there. We're like, let's get away from here. And all of a sudden we're on a highway in Calgary, actually, in the city I'm from, on Stony Trail, to any of you Albertans out there that are listening.
Yeah, we got a lot of Canadians that listen to this show. You know it?
Yeah. A lot of people are asking in the Discord, Calgary, Alberta.
Yeah.
So I strangely enough, and I don't know, I'm sure lots of you experience this, but the dreamscape world can be very, very different. So you can have essences of places that you recognize, but then the dream state kind of like, you know, soups that up on, you know, nitrous, right? So all of a sudden your dreams become the constructs, the astral constructs of your dreams become more than what you know they are. So we stopped on this highway, but it's anyone that knows Stony Trail where I'm from, it's just a flat road, right? Like, it's not like an overpass. There are some sections of it that go over roads and stuff, but for the most part, it's not like, those crazy highways in the United States, like in LA, where it's like, looks like spaghetti. There's like roads going in every direction and there's like tall bridges. It's nothing like that. But in this dream, that's what it became. And so we pulled over on the side of the road, and all of a sudden this music started playing. I started hearing REM, Losing My Religion.
Oh, that's a good
was
one.
So strange, It's a good song too. I definitely was born out of my time. If I could have been, it would probably been the 80s, or the 70s.
That's totally 90s.
Here we are. So here we are listening to REM, and the road starts moving like a conveyor belt. And we're just sitting there leaning on this like railing, and we're listening to this song. And we see all these people by the side of the road down below, and they're like watching the road almost like a parade, and there's balloons and there's people. It's almost like a train, like there's people waiting for the train to pass, but it's actually a gigantic bridge. Yeah. And that's an escalator of some kind, a conveyor belt of some kind. And so it eventually drops us off at a mall. Strangely enough, the road ends at a mall, and it just sort of gracefully drops us off there. And so we decide, let's go into the mall, me and my brother. And so inside the mall, there's like all these people.
This is so freaking crazy, man. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
These are my dreams, This is
go for it.
I have tons of these.
Sorry.
Yeah, and so no, it's okay. And so so we go into the mall, and everyone's acting weird. They're acting like zombies. They're acting like, they're running away from something, or they're excited. And so we find this strange crystal store. Like, they sell crystals. I'm sure lots of you have seen them out there, but they sell like crystals and sage and Palo Santo and cool books and stuff. And so we decide to go inside. And they have some world-famous amethyst crystal cave inside of their store, which is so strange. It felt gimmicky. So I go inside with my brother, and the entire store is made out of amethyst crystals. Like, there's stairs that are made of amethyst. There's like waterfalls like shooting off of, amethyst waterways into like amethyst, water. Like water basins down below. There's people all over the place. And I decide, I lose track of my brother. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, where did he go? He was right beside me a second ago. And then, so I decide to go deeper into this cave. And as I slowly start going deeper and deeper into the cave, I notice that there's less and less people inside the cave now, and it's just me. And eventually it opens up into this gigantic, huge cavern inside with torches lit everywhere.
So you went from a mall to a cave to a tavern.
To a cave.
Now you're in a tavern.
So
okay.
And I'm still looking for my brother, right? And
Gotcha.
I'm like, what's going on? And so I'm all of a sudden this and here comes the villain. And all of a sudden this priest is standing there in the middle of this cavern, right in the middle of this gigantic cavern. And he says, well, he's right here. And so all of a sudden I shift my view. I sort of lean off to my right side, and there's my brother, sort of entranced. He's standing there like in stasis with his eyes rolled back. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, in my mind, I'm getting ready for a battle, but visibly I'm remaining calm. And so he's trying to get closer towards my brother, and I decide, no, that's not happening. And all of a sudden, I do this weird motion with my hands. I push my hands together, and I start creating these gigantic energy projectiles, and I start flinging them at this priest. And at first, he's a little bit impressed, but now he's like almost annoyed with me. And he's like, oh, you thought you could like battle with me? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. That's my brother there.
Now,
like,
by any chance, is REM still playing in the background? Because that would be epic.
No, unfortunately. Yeah, there it is in the background, right?
Yeah. While you're battling a priest. That would have been a
nice fight battle, right? Yeah, against the demonic priest. And so this priest starts flinging energy projectiles at me, and I just casually, like, just glance them off of my hands. I start walking towards him, and he starts to get panicked. Like, he's starting to get freaked out by the fact that I'm unaffected by him. And this is where I think the training from DMT comes in, when you learn to use energetic shapes in your favor and everything. This is where that training comes in, I think. This is my theory. So all of a sudden now I'm like smack dab right at his toe-to-toe with him, and I grab him by his collar and I start wailing on this guy. And all of a sudden, this amethyst cave, like the illusion, it turned into it phased away, and it all just melted away. It was all an illusion. And he was like this like scared old man, and he was like, oh my God, like, please don't hurt me. And I was like, what just happened? Like, we're in the middle of like some suburban area in Calgary that I recognize, but it's like mashed together in this dreamscape with other roads that I recognize. And so my brother's still in trance there, and I sort of shake him. I shake him awake. I'm like, run. He's like, what should I do? I'm like, run. That's what you should do. Like, go, get out of here. He's like, what about you? I'm like, don't worry about me. I'll be right behind you. And so I start running after him, and I look behind me, and I actually had a little bit of a snicker because I realized I was dreaming at this point. I knew that I was dreaming. I was having a lucid dream. And so I started to, I looked back and I saw this priest. The priest, he went from being dressed like a traditional priest to all of a sudden he looked like he was dressed like a marathon runner. He had like shorts on, like a white khaki shirt and like white runners. And I looked back and I actually started snickering. I was kind of laughing. I was like, that's kind of funny. And then he was like gaining on me, and I was like, oh my God, he's still the bad guy. Time to run. Like, let's go. So I start running really fast in my dream, and he's catching up to us. Like, and like I can feel my sleeping body sweating. Like I'm like, I can feel the fear of this like encounter coming to a head. And so like he's not even focused on me. He's trying to he's trying to grab onto my brother, latch onto him, and sort of like curse him or hex him or something. And I was like, run faster. And so all of a sudden, in this intersection that we were about to run right through, one of the classic cars from the property that my business mentor was looking at, that I had fallen in love with, this car. It was all fixed up and beautiful and shining and gleaming, and it was like in this gigantic parade of all these classic vintage cars. And they were driving, they were making a left-hand turn, and we were about to run straight in front of their path. And so I saw my brother jump over the first car, and this priest was like had his fingers reached out, and I like slowed down and grabbed on. I latched onto this priest or whatever, and I launched him towards. He got impaled on the hood ornament of this classic car that I love in real life. I really actually enjoy this car. And so
this is a detailed dream, man. Does DMT help you remember stuff like this? This detailed?
Oh, this has been happening long before DMT. Like I have dream journals that are like novels. People tell me I should write Stephen King novels or something, but like
we got to get to the prophetic part because time's starting to run down here. But no, I don't want to rush you, so
fair enough.
Keep going through it.
No. So, and that's where I led up to. So it's like a water shaman dream. strangely enough, like all of a sudden after waking up from that dream, I decided that I was comfortable enough to drop back down again, and I fell into the ocean. I fell into the ocean. I was like a water person that could breathe water, like, and swim around, and I could see the ocean was starting to heal. The ocean was starting to heal itself. It was filled with fish again. It was bright, beautiful, colorful water. And so I see this sandbar, and I'm swimming through all these gigantic schools of fish, and I see the sandbar, and all these like feet are still half in the water. So I swim up to the sandbar, and there's all these people just like me, standing around this gentleman, this water shaman, on the sandbar. And so I crawl up onto the sandbar and I cross my legs, and there's all these creatures in the water surrounding us, all these dolphins and orcas and whales and birds from all around, and there's sea serpents on the sandbar sitting next to me. And I look down, and this like rainbow colored serpent, viper, it shoots at me. It lunges at me, but instead of biting me, it kisses my arm and leaves a mark of white light on me. And I just smiled at the serpent, and then it sort of, it gave me this like smile of like a blessing. Now, it wasn't, a mark of, it wasn't a negative mark. It was definitely a kind gesture, and I knew that. And then this water shaman, I went silent. Everyone went silent, and this water shaman was standing before us all. And, he was, to describe what I saw, he had a headdress on, and he had these armbands on, but that was it. This guy was otherwise completely naked, standing before all these people in sort of, I stand before you all with no mask sort of thing, like an intuitive, I'm being transparent with you, essentially, is what he's trying to say.
Hell yeah.
And and what's more honest than, being completely bare with someone and speaking your mind simultaneously as well, right? So there's a lot of, beautiful metaphor in that. And so he holds up this dead reptile, this like lizard of some kind, and he holds it up in front of, up in the air in front of one of these vipers that has approached him now. And so he walks over top of the viper and gets in, well within striking distance of this like very dangerous like sea serpent. And all these people start to gasp. And he says, in the background, there's this hurricane, this gigantic storm brewing right behind him. But off to the right side, there's still sunlight. There's still hope, And so he says to these people, he says, do not be afraid. This is, show courage in the face of uncertainty. And, the universe will move these blockades, these blockages from your life, right?
Hell yeah.
Which is a very common, a theme that I hear in my dreams, right? Like, be courageous, and the universe will reward that.
Right on.
And so, he says, like, I have no fear. And he's like, I will walk up to the serpent, you see? And then he stands over the serpent. The serpent kind of recoils, and everyone's like, oh my goodness, they sort of like freeze up. But then he decides, he stands back, but just a step or two back, he still can be struck by the serpent. And he says, I will show you that I have faith in the universe. And so he holds the reptile out to the serpent one more time. And the serpent winds up and strikes the reptile instead and starts to eat the reptile. And he says, go forth, everyone, like, bring light and peace into this world now. And that's when I woke up, and I was like,
sweating?
Whoa, like, yeah, I was sweating. I felt like I had a workout,
So what do you think the dream meant?
I think that there will be challenges. There will be hurdles along the way, but people need to have faith in themselves. They need to have faith in humanity.
Right.
I think, I think that we still need to find new ways of shifting the paradigm. I think we need to, we need to strengthen our communities. We need not be so international in a sense, right? There's nothing wrong with having international relations and connections and family, but we need to start at home. We need to know our neighbors. We need to know the people next to us and love those people, to whatever comfortable degree that a neighbor loves another neighbor without it being, weird or adulterous.
Yeah, and if your neighbors all suck, you always got this show at night too, right? So listen, man, we got to get out of here. Harris, thanks for coming on, brother. That was hell of a story. It was a good time.
Thank you for letting me share it. Yeah, of course. Anytime.
Yeah, hang out so we can get you. Just let me hang out real quick. I'll get you that T-shirt. Guys, we got to get out of here, man. That was pretty cool. Harris come on is a Voidwalker. He's been listening to the show 2.5 years and has been through quite a bit, right? So that was pretty rad. Tomorrow night on the program, Anthony Tyler from the last American Vagabond.com. This guy is a researcher and author from Anchorage, Alaska, who's into psychology and mysticism and 4T phenomena. We'll be talking to him tomorrow night. I want to thank Pacho for making this happen. All of you guys in the Fringe FM chat, the Fringe FM team. Sorry, the phone lines were down. They'll be back up. Don't worry about that. And the music was by Steezy Stevie and Chronox. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Stay tuned for the Secret Teachings. Good night.